Hello and welcome. Whether you are here out of interest or intrigue, either way, I hope you will find something of value at the Human Channel. I'd like to thank the weekend photographer at shishirratanart.com for enhancing this episode with some interesting visuals. Need a photographer, original abstract art on canvas, or want to read a blog? Head over to shishirratanart.com. Website and social media links are in the description. I'd like to welcome Will on my channel, the Human Channel. It's a pleasure to have you, Will. I've seen some of your videos, and one of those videos I can play out loud since you kind of keep it clean, and I love to keep my podcast that way as well. So good to have you, man. Why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners about yourself?
Cool. Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you having me on. My name's Will Lee. I have my podcast, which is what you were mentioning, a Will Lee Good podcast, where I just kind of talk about mental health and fitness, how the two correlate. I get into stress, depression, anxiety, how to manage it, tips on managing it, and just how to be better individuals and better people, and just kind of pushing yourself to go to the next level in life.
That's exactly what the Human Channel is all about as well. The more we look at the world and the things happening around us, I think the need of the hour is to really ground yourself, see who you truly are. So, Will, your podcast, even that is all about dealing with stress and anxiety. And of late in our country, in India, mental health has taken, a center stage with one of, the prominent actors committing suicide. So why don't you, delve a little about what are the tips, what are the, insights that you provide, something that, I'm sure will resonate with everybody. So what's your take on it?
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, I mean, with that happening, mental health is one of those things that most people, if not everybody, deal with in some type of way, directly or indirectly, because even if you personally don't deal with it, somebody may deal with it, or somebody you're related to may deal with it. But it's also one of those things that kind of has a stigma around it, so it's not something that's talked about openly. It's not something people all the time feel comfortable with talking about. But at the same time, it's a big thing, and it is a problem, and it is something that should be addressed, because I mean, when it comes to solving the problem or taking care of it, the best and the number one, the main thing is to first acknowledge it. And that's kind of like why I enjoy your channel, because it's talking about things that people don't normally talk about. And that's what I'm trying to get across in my channel too, is just, you don't have to, and I'm not going to sit down and like just break somebody down and diagnose them with everything, but just to start a conversation around it can be very healing and very good as well, without even getting too deep or getting into anything. Just the fact that the subject is brought up and people are looking at it, people are thinking about it, so that it kind of sparks something.
That's a very key point that you have raised, Will, because conversation, the way I see it, is the key to everything. At the end of the day, what is conversation? It's just, a bunch of words. And what are words? Just sounds that we all actually create from our mouths, right? But then each and every single word has a meaning. And talking to someone, opening up, and laying yourself out there is the first step to really dealing with these kind of issues. So what would be your advice to someone who's probably going through a rough patch? And I'm sure most of us do. I mean, there's no one who can say that, oh, I am not depressed or I'm not sad or anything. Everyone has something. Then not everyone talks about it. So what would be your advice to anyone who wants to take that first step and talk about it? How do they go about it?
Yeah, definitely. And so what I would say too, and I'll say this, I'm gonna answer your question, but before I'll say, I'm not sure how it is over there in India, but over here in America, like with this whole coronavirus and everything like that, I know since everybody's been inside their houses a lot more, we've been quarantined, we can't go anywhere. So, I mean, it's really, really easy to just kind of go crazy in these four walls without doing anything. So I think just the fact that you have this channel and you're bringing up conversations and things like that, like it's really good just for people in general, because there's so much going on in the world right now. For somebody that is going through something, my first tip or piece of advice would be to, one, if they had somebody that they could kind of confide in and talk to express themselves, because a lot of people's first inclination when something like that comes in is to shut down and hold it all inside. So like when somebody's stressed or they're depressed or anything like that, they'll either like to sleep a lot or they'll get really lazy because they're just holding everything inside and they're letting it control them. And so the first step would be to find somebody you can talk to. And it doesn't have to be anything, like I said earlier, anything deep. You don't have to get diagnosed with anything. Just somebody that you can say, hey, this is how I feel. I just need somebody to listen to me. And even if you don't have anybody to talk to, get a journal and just every day write down how you're feeling and what led up to that. And because that's what I do. I have a journal and I write every day, I write in there how I'm feeling, what led up to it. And if you're consistent with that, like say a whole month goes by, 30 days go by, you can look back at that journal and start to see patterns, right? So you can see like, okay, man, like at the beginning of the week, I'm starting to feel this way. And then towards the end of the week, I do this way and it keeps repeating itself. So then that way you can look and see, okay, I need to change this or let me adjust that and then see how I feel. So just expressing in any way, whether that's vocally by talking to somebody or actually writing it on paper.
You know what? I had interviewed one person called Joe Dan Spiker on my other channel,
Yeah.
the Creative Pod, and he said something similar, just with a twist. So while you're talking about, if you don't find someone to talk to, you can always maintain a journal. And, one of the other healthier things, or let me put it this way, one of the ways you can turn this negative rough patch into something positive would be to actually explore your creative side. I mean, it's not like you have to do a Shakespeare, but
Yeah.
you can just write down what you feel, and sometimes it's just difficult to put it in words. But you know what's the other form of writing that follows a similar pattern? It is poetry. You don't have to be a great poet, you don't even have to be a good poet, but if
Yeah.
you want to say something or you want to express how you actually feel but you don't know how to really put it down, find the nearest thing that is similar to it. Now, for example, if you're feeling really sad and like you now, here's the case, right? I'm not able to put it in words, but then let's say let's say I feel like a rolling mass of dark clouds coming onto the land.
Okay.
Just willing to pour out what's in my heart,
That's
but I
pretty good.
hold
I
it
like that.
on. Yeah. So, it's that simple. Just find the
It
closest
is.
thing
That's
that,
good.
yeah, just find the closest thing that's similar to how you feel, and you have, something interesting in your hands. And what you've just done is two things. One, you have let out those emotions that are eating you away inside like acid. You have put it on paper or word document or whatever it might be. The other thing is now you have something that you can actually show to the world and get appreciated for. You have
Yeah,
created
exactly.
something. So
Exactly.
yeah, so there are ways you can talk to someone, you can talk to yourself. I remember one more thing. Steve Jobs, I remember him saying this in one of his speeches. He said, you look at your mirror and ask yourself, what is it that you're doing? And if you feel that there is something negative repeating, like you said, right, there's a repeating pattern. If there's
Yeah, for
something like
sure.
that coming repeatedly, then there is something you need to change. So on
Hmm.
that note, well, do you do anything apart from writing journals? Anything on the creative side that you sort of just, indulge in?
Yeah, man. So I mean, like, I'm the type to where I can't be in one place or just doing one thing ever, like at a time. Like I always have to be up doing something active. So I've always wanted to create things. I've always liked to create things. And that's actually how it started for me, is writing stuff down in a journal. And then I started to look into writing like stories and things like that. So I went to the store one time and I bought a book that was like, it just had a bunch of blank pages, 200 blank pages with just topics, one line topics on each page. And I would get that and I would just read the topic and write a story about it every day. And then that just kind of transcended into me actually wanting to express and talk about this type of podcast thing. So when I started my podcast, it kind of stemmed from my writing and things like that, because I used to love to write. I wrote stories every day. for the longest, and I had like 2, 3 journals. This may be like 10 years ago. I had like 2 or 3 journals like full of everything. I ended up throwing them away. I don't know why. I regret that to this day because all those stories and all that stuff is gone forever. But that's how it started for me, and I just love to use my imagination and create whatever comes to my mind.
That's awesome. There was another one guest who, I asked him this question. He's someone who is an author, and his name is Todd Sullivan, and he's an author, but he's also now an editor. And I asked him this question, that how do you decide which is a good one and which is not so
Yeah,
good? And
true.
he gave such an important tip. He said your opening should be strong. It should not be something mundane, and your ending has to be strong as well. Don't rush through it. So anyone who's thinking of writing or dealing with your anxiety and trying to put
Mm,
it in words, and further on, if you think of making it a little creative, I think that would be one of the ways to go. So let's talk further about
yeah.
the current scenario where we are dealing with a lot of hate crime and racism and all of those poisonous things that do nothing good for the society in general. And in such scenarios, how can we really focus on seeing people as people, not as whites or blacks or yellow or brown or whatever. I mean, those are
Yeah,
just colors, but you take the skin off and you have muscles and skeleton, and you really can't say who's this guy, right? So
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
so how do we deal with that? Like, what's your take on that?
yeah. And that's probably like one of the biggest things aside from this virus that's going on in America right now. It's just a lot of negativity. It's a lot of bad stuff. Like even on social media, scrolling through, sometimes I just have to take a break from it because it's just hate crimes and just a lot of bad things going on. And so, I mean, as far as dealing with it, as far as I go, I know it can be tough for anybody really that has to deal with anything, especially somebody that sees their color first, besides, like you said earlier, seeing them as a human. Because, like you said, if we take the skin away, everybody's the same. We all bleed the same. Everybody, at the end of the day, come from the same thing. So, I mean, dealing with it, I know can be tough. It can be hard. It can seem like you're at the bottom and there's no coming up, especially if you dwell on those things and think about it. Which is why I feel like expressing yourself and just staying in a good headspace is very, very important. Because if you are in a good headspace and you're confident with yourself, then all these things that people may have to say about you or what they feel or anything, you're not going to let that drag you down or make them feel like you're less of a human or like they're better just because of their skin color is different or the color of their eyes or wherever they come from. You won't feel like they're better than you because they may say something to you. So I think you really like the main thing for me, at least, what helped was just investing in myself and becoming a confident individual and knowing what my worth is.
Confidence is something that is the key here, wouldn't you agree?
Definitely.
And the reason why I say that is because the first thing to go down, the moment someone feels depressed or sad or anything, is to feel, uh, worthless or feeling less than the other. And I think that is one of those first nails, or, like a hammer that sort of hits on a person's persona and tends to, begin to breaks them down one by one, blow by blow.
Yeah.
And from there it's like a slippery slope. The moment you feel, oh, that I'm not as good as them, and every other interaction, every other thought just acts like a hammer hitting that stone, and your
Yeah.
persona just breaks away. So
And it can take you to a really dark place.
oh yes, very very quickly, very quickly. So, that is one of the things that actually drives people to ultimately go down that route of, the really dark place that is, suicide, or, just giving up on life in general. So, for such a person, well, what do you think could be one of those things that can really lift them up?
I would say, first off, taking care of yourself, and this is my personal experience with it, is valuing myself, number one, and number two, taking care of yourself. Because like you said earlier, confidence is key. So it's like you see these videos online of these people getting yelled at, people yelling racial slurs at them, people giving them the finger, like whatever they're doing to them. And some people react, and then and that just ends in a bad situation. Like, say somebody's yelling at me on the street and they're calling me words and they're giving me fingers and they're doing all these things. I get upset and then I lash out at that person. A cop comes and shoots me, and then that's it. I'm gone. I'm done. Right? But if I value myself and I take care of myself, and if my confidence is high, I'm not going to let that person bring me down to their level. Because at this point, if they're yelling racial slurs at me and they're doing this, they're way lower than I am. And I'm not going to let them bring me down to their level, because I got too much to live for. I have too much going on. I have too much confidence in myself. So I'm going to take the high road and I'm going to let them go, because I know at the end of the day, I'm in a better place and I have things that I need to accomplish in this life, while that person may be miserable within themselves, and that's why they're taking it out on me. But my confidence is through the roof, and I'm valuing myself. I'm taking care of my body. So I'm in a position where I can be better, or I can keep moving forward. So I'm not even going to let that bother me.
I really like how you put it, Will. Taking care of yourself, because a lot of people take to drink or smoking, or they would just go and do things that they would never normally do. And
Yeah.
You raised a key point by saying that understanding what is actually going on in your life, what are you living for, that's the key thing. And there would be people who would say, well, my job sucks and now this guy is at me out on the street out of the blue, and it's all, what's happening in my life. Yeah, not everyone is having, the kind of dream job that they want, or the kind of pay that they would like. Because let's face it, life is not fair, man. No one comes
Right.
with a script saying that, hey, this is your script for life and it's gonna be all roses and ponies. No, no way.
Yeah, no, not even.
Yeah, you gotta go find your ponies, or what is it that makes you happy. But that's the key.
Yeah.
You need to find what makes you happy and stick with it, believe in it, and move forward. All right. Now, let's switch gears and talk a little about your podcast, and what are the typical kind of things that you cover in that, and what is the message you're trying to give out to people?
Yeah, for sure. So my podcast is super chill. Most of the time I'm in pajamas when I record. Most of the time I have like a glass of wine or something, and I'm just relaxed, just sitting back, chilling. But I
Oh, I
like to
saw the
talk
green
about.
tea though. Not green
Yeah, I
tea.
did.
Yeah, it
I
was tea
did.
for sure.
Had to switch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, I like to talk about just how to be better as an individual. And for me, I learned that in the gym. And so I try to apply and convey that message, just because I'm 28 years old, right? So there's been a lot of things in life, and I know I'm still fairly young, but there's been a lot of things in life that I feel like I've gone through. But everything that I've gone through, I've learned a lesson from, and I've learned how to navigate whatever comes next because of that. So everything that I have gone through, I don't regret it, because I can use it to be better. And I'm trying to get that message across to people and let them know that there's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days. But at the end of the day, as long as you're better than you were yesterday, then you're good. You're still moving forward. You're still winning, even if your progress is slow. And I'm trying to build just a community around that, an audience of just people who may not have anybody to talk to, may not have anybody to listen to, where they can share whatever's going on with them. Because in this community, there may be somebody who's going through the same thing and they needed to hear what that other person had to say. There may be somebody who went through that already and they can share advice on what helped them to get through it. And I try to put out episodes around just like tips on managing stress, or how to overcome obstacles, or how to meditate, just things so you can be better as an individual. And if we're all better as individuals, then slowly but surely the world would be a better place.
Amazing. And that's exactly what makes the world go round.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Cool, man. So, Will, this has been an interesting conversation, and I wish you all the very best on your podcast. I hope more people are able to reach out to you, listen to you, and not just listen, but also internalize the message you're trying to put out there. At the end of the day, we are all human beings. We all cry, we all feel hungry, and we all laugh, and we all need,
Exactly.
we all need to be content in our lives. But we cannot do it alone. We need to talk. We need to be heard, and violence or racism, and these are not the ways to go about it. Like Mahatma Gandhi once said, "Be the change you wish to be in the world." But if you're not able to be that
Exactly.
change, find someone who is replica of that change you look forward to, and make sure it's a positive change, something that does not disrupt community or society, but tries to bring in peace and harmony. I know these might sound like lofty words, but at the end of the day, no one wants to live in fear. So the only way to live happily is to stay in harmony. So I really hope,
Absolutely right.
yeah, and I really hope people take that message to heart and try to make those little changes, like you said, right? Even if it's a small progress, at least be at it. You're doing something better for yourself, and that affects the society as well. So that being
Definitely.
said, Will, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and all the best to you, brother.
I appreciate it, man. Now, thank you for having me on the Human Channel. I appreciate it, man. I love what you're doing here. Keep it up.
Well, then, I hope you found something of interest in today's podcast. And if you did, please do share for more and share the channel among like minded people. The Human Channel signing off.